You know what's strange? Some teenagers can sit in a crowded room and still feel like they're standing behind glass, watching everyone else somehow understand a language they were never taught. They laugh a little too late. They think too long before speaking. They replay what they said on the way home, wondering why being around people can feel more exhausting than being alone. And after a while, they start asking a quiet question they rarely say out loud. Why do I feel so different from everyone else? Most people assume this feeling means something is wrong with you, that you're awkward, dramatic, antisocial, too sensitive, too serious, too deep in your own head. But sometimes being different is not a flaw in your personality. Sometimes it's what happens when your inner world becomes more active than the world around you. When you notice more, feel more, remember more, and carry more than people realize, you stop moving through life the way other people seem to. You hesitate, you observe, you protect parts of yourself without fully understanding why. Being different often begins long before you have words for it. Maybe you were the kid who noticed tension in the room before anyone said anything. Maybe you could hear the shift in someone's tone, feel when a joke had something sharp hidden inside it, sense when affection was real and when it was performance. Other kids just reacted to what was visible. You reacted to what was underneath. And when your nervous system grows used to scanning below the surface, you don't just become more aware, you become more separate. That separation can make ordinary life feel strangely artificial. School hallways become theaters of performance. Friend groups start to feel like shifting alliances. Conversations sound rehearsed. Trends appear and disappear so quickly, they begin to feel less like identity and more like survival. You watch people change the way they talk, dress, laugh, post, even the way they look at themselves, depending on who's around. And maybe you try to do the same. Maybe you really try, but something in you resists it, not because you think you're better than everyone else, but because pretending feels heavier on you than it seems to them. Teenagers who feel different are often described as overthinkers, but overthinking is sometimes just what deep pattern recognition looks like from the outside. Your mind doesn't stop at what happened, it keeps going. Why did they say it like that? Why did the room go quiet after that joke? Why do I feel off even when nothing bad happened? You don't just experience life, you analyze it while it's happening. That can make you seem distant, but often you're not disconnected at all. You're overwhelmed by how connected everything feels. There's also a loneliness that comes from being internally older than your environment. Some teenagers begin asking questions early that other people aren't ready for yet. Questions about identity, trust, meaning, death, belonging, emotional safety, and whether anyone is ever truly known. While other people are focused on fitting in, part of you is busy trying to understand why fitting in matters so much in the first place. That gap creates distance, not always visible distance, but emotional distance. You can be surrounded by friends and still feel like the only person in the room who notices how temporary everything feels. Sometimes this difference comes from pain. Not always obvious pain, not always dramatic pain. Sometimes it comes from growing up around inconsistency, around moods that changed without warning, around love that felt conditional, around environments where you had to read people carefully because being careless had consequences. In those situations, sensitivity stops being a soft personality trait and becomes a form of self-protection. You learn to measure the emotional weather before you speak. You learn that silence can be safer than honesty. You learn that being different from others may simply mean you adapted earlier. The internet complicates all of this because now difference is visible all the time. You're no longer just comparing yourself to classmates or cousins or the kids on your street. You're comparing your mind, your face, your humor, your social life, your body, your sadness, your entire existence to millions of curated fragments every day. And when you already feel slightly out of rhythm with the people around you, this endless exposure can turn difference into self-surveillance. You start watching yourself the way strangers might watch you. You become both person and audience, and that is exhausting. That's why some teenagers feel safest in private spaces, late at night in their room, walking alone with music in their ears, staring at the ceiling while the house goes quiet. There's relief in those moments because nobody is demanding a version of you. Nobody is reading your face. Nobody is waiting for you to be more entertaining, more relaxed, more normal, more social, more easy to understand. Solitude becomes the one place where your nervous system stops performing. And when private life feels more real than public life, of course you begin to wonder if something about you is fundamentally different. But here's what many people miss. Feeling different does not always mean you don't belong. Sometimes it means your identity is forming in a deeper place than external approval can reach. Some teenagers build themselves outward through trends, attention, group belonging, and social repetition. Others build inward through reflection, contradiction, emotional memory, and long periods of silent observation. The second path is slower and lonelier. It can make you feel delayed, misplaced, even invisible, but it often creates a stronger internal foundation later in life. Many teenagers who feel different also carry a strange mix of hunger and restraint. They want closeness but distrust exposure. They want to be understood but hate being watched too closely. They want friendship but feel drained by performance. They want love but fear becoming fully visible to someone who might misunderstand them. This contradiction confuses people. It can even confuse you. But contradictions like these are common in sensitive minds. When your inner world is rich, protection and longing often grow side by side. And over time, this creates certain habits. You may test people without meaning to, stay quiet to see who notices, joke about serious things to hide how much they matter, downplay your interests until you know it's safe to care openly, watch a group for weeks before trusting its warmth, leave messages unanswered while thinking of the perfect reply. None of this means you are broken. It means part of you has learned that careless visibility can be costly, so you become selective, careful, hard to read, not because you have nothing to give, but because what you give feels too personal to waste. There's also a quiet grief in feeling different during adolescence. These are the years when sameness seems rewarded, when belonging looks effortless from the outside, when everyone else appears to slide naturally into shared jokes, shared tastes, shared rhythms, while you keep feeling one beat behind or one layer below. But appearances can be deceptive. Many of the people who seem effortlessly normal are also performing versions of themselves they don't fully recognize. The difference is that you are more aware of the performance, and awareness, while painful, is also power. Because eventually, many teenagers like this grow into adults with unusual depth. They become the ones who notice what others miss, the ones who can sense emotional dishonesty, who create sincere art, who understand loneliness without romanticizing it, who listen carefully, love seriously, and question social rituals that never made sense to begin with. What felt like alienation earlier in life often becomes discernment later. What felt like awkwardness becomes sensitivity. What felt like not fitting in becomes freedom from needing to. So if you've spent years feeling slightly misplaced, slightly unreadable, slightly outside the frame of everyone else's version of normal, maybe the answer is not that you were made wrong. Maybe you were shaped to see things earlier, to feel things more precisely, and to build an identity that cannot survive on imitation alone. And yes, that path can be lonelier in the beginning, but it can also be more real. The truth is, some teenagers do not feel different because they are less than other people. They feel different because they cannot fully numb themselves to the noise, the performance, the emotional static, and the quiet sadness beneath modern life. They sense too much too early. And while that can make adolescents feel colder, it also means they are often building something invisible and strong beneath the surface. A mind that questions, a heart that notices, a self that refuses to become shallow just to feel included. And maybe that's the real psychology of teenagers who feel different from everyone else. They are not always lost. Sometimes they are simply developing in private, becoming someone the world does not recognize yet. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, stay close. There's a reason some minds grow quietly first.